Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Harrington. Tonight on the Now Bakersfield, a winter storm hits Kern County, causing snowfall and at one point shutting down Interstate 5. CHP now reporting that roadway is back open on the northbound side. More on the current road conditions through the Grapevine. Plus, minimum wage for the state will be increasing for the new year. A look at how this impacts the local economy for both workers and employers. That's all ahead on the Now Bakersfield. Annie?
Here's what we have in the lineup for you today. For the first time, the odds of dying from an accidental opioid overdose are actually greater than dying in a car crash in our country. Yeah, let that sink in for a moment. We're going to be looking into what's being done to reverse this troubling trend. And then we all know how nice it can be to go to a museum. But for the millions of Americans suffering with an early stage Alzheimer's or dementia, it's more than something to pass the time. We're going to go inside a program using art to make living with memory loss a little bit easier. And a well-known actor is bringing new attention to reality a lot of us are facing, taking care of an aging or sick family member. The places you may not realize where you can turn for help and support.
Good evening. Hundreds of cars are still enduring tons of traffic on and around the I-5 on the Grapevine. 23 ABC's Vanessa Romo joins us now live in Lebec with how officials are trying to get people home tonight. Vanessa?
That's right, Jess. I am here in Lebec, and as you can see behind me, officials still trying to get some of those cars out, some of those cars stuck in snow. We have a plow right behind us trying to get cars out. As of 6 this evening, Interstate 5 on the Grapevine has reopened for those traveling northbound. According to Fort Tejon, there was some confusion whether or not both lanes were open, but as of now, we're hearing, according to Caltrans, they say southbound is also open, but since last check with Fort Tejon, it is still closed. We are working on confirming that. According to the California Highway Patrol, at noon today, all lanes on Interstate 5 have been shut down on the Grapevine, leaving hundreds of cars trapped in the snow for hours. In Lebec, gas stations were also closed due to power outages and lack of resources, but have since reopened. This, of course, a reminder to anyone traveling to always be prepared for road closures like this one. Always pack waters, foods, blankets, even a flashlight in advance, because like I said, these gas stations here in Lebec and the liquor stores were not able to supply that for hours. Again, the I-5 going northbound is open, and we are working on confirming whether or not the southbound lane is open. We will be sure to update you on the latest. In Lebec, for the Now, Vanessa Romo, 23 ABC.
All right, Vanessa, we can see conditions there still very active. Taking a live look at downtown Bakersfield. Big difference from up in the mountains, Allison.
Oh, yeah. We are seeing clearing skies actually this evening, and those winds are calming down. But today we were tracking storm number 1 out of 3 that is making its way into the county this week. So a bulk of that system made its way down in Southern California, but hitting us here in Kern County. The National Weather Service did see reports of 10 inches of snow in Fraser Park. Here in Bakersfield, receiving just 1/100th of an inch of rain, and Tehachapi now seeing more than 1/2 of an inch of rain. But at this hour, we are seeing just pockets of some scattered showers in the mountains as well as down into our desert cities. This system is slowly going to be pushing off to our east. Still seeing strong wind gusts, 20-mile-per-hour winds at the base of the Grapevine, 14 here in Bakersfield. So that is much calmer than what we were experiencing earlier today. The strongest wind gusts here in Bakersfield, 51 miles per hour. So we are tracking this winter storm warning that will be impacting the mountains until 4 a.m. on on Tuesday. That snow level is going to be down to 4,000 feet. But then behind that, a mountain wind advisory that will be beginning at 4 a.m., continuing until 6 p.m. tomorrow. So that does mean good news for our air quality. We are going to be in the good range with an AQI of 33, and there are no restrictions, but birding is discouraged. So this second storm that we're tracking making its way into the county starting at around 11 a.m. We're going to be seeing those rain and snow chances continuing throughout the afternoon into about 7 p.m. and then that system going to be pushing off, going to be feeling very similar to what we're seeing today. And then we're tracking a third system that is a low pressure system mixed with an atmospheric river that is going to be bringing very wet conditions across the county. Here in Bakersfield, we could be seeing a half up to 1 inch of rain throughout the next 72 hours, and then more like 2, potentially 3 inches of rain in our mountain communities. But temperatures, because we're going to be receiving some subtropical moisture, we are going to be up to 65 degrees on Wednesday, 62 on Thursday as that third system makes its way into the county, and then we're going to be drying out as we head into the weekend. We do have the chance to see some fog on Saturday and Sunday mornings, but I'll have more details on that later this week. Annie?
An alarming new report shows just how deadly the opioid crisis continues to be across the country. And for the first time in U.S. history, Americans are now more likely to die from an opioid overdose than from actually a car crash. The Now's Corey Rangel has more on the impact of the growing opioid problem.
A mass overdose inside this California home over the weekend killed one person and sent 12 others to the hospital.
To get this many individuals, especially all at one time, to walk in and have 6 CPRs in progress, that's a pretty big deal. And no, I've not experienced that many cardiac events all at the exact same time.
It's an example showing why opioid overdoses are now killing more Americans than car crashes, according to the National Safety Council.
The opioid crisis is striking, and many people realize that it's happening, but far too many still don't realize that it could happen to them or that it does impact them.
Maureen Vogel with the National Safety Council says opioid overdoses have been increasing every year since 1999, and the consequences have grown deadlier.
We are losing more than 115 people every single day from accidental opioid overdose. It is the definition of a public health crisis, and it is disproportionately impacting middle-aged Americans, but it is a threat at every age.
To address the opioid epidemic, last year, Congress passed a bill aimed at finding less addictive drugs and expanding access to treatment. For the Now, I'm Corey Rangel.
Corey, thank you. Well, next in our lineup, for the millions of Americans suffering with early-stage Alzheimer's or dementia, going to the museum is more than something to just pass their time. We're going to go inside a program using art to make living with memory loss a little bit easier. You're watching The Now. The company being blamed for the deadly wildfire in California last year is filing for bankruptcy. That story tops our newsfeed. Pacific Gas and Electric is facing billions in claims related to that campfire. It's believed the fire started when one of their power lines came in contact with some trees. Contraception will continue to remain free and available in a dozen states and Washington, D.C. New rules were set to take effect today that would allow some companies to exempt themselves from offering birth control based on religious and moral beliefs. But a California federal judge ruled in favor of a lawsuit challenging the rules. The North American International Auto Show kicking off today, announcing the prestigious car, truck, and SUV of the awards. And Hyundai's Genesis G70 won Car of the Year. It got a top safety rating from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Fiat Chrysler's Ram 1500 got Truck of the Year. And Hyundai won again for the top utility vehicle with Kona. And getting a pay raise, that sounds pretty good, right? Well, Glassdoor just put out the latest jobs that are seeing the fastest pay increase, and they may actually surprise you. I'm breaking down which ones are handing out the raises.
If you're looking for an industry that's secure, if you're looking for an industry that's almost virtually recession-proof, you're going to find it here in the trucking industry.
Truck drivers made it into the top 3 jobs seeing the biggest pay raise, and Quincy Jones with Sage Truck Driving School says it might be surprising to some, but because of e-commerce, truck drivers are seeing more than just pay raises.
One way for these large companies to get these truckers and to retain them is for a pay increase, to really increase pay, to increase benefit packages, sign-on bonuses. So they're really thinking outside the box to try to get some of these driver recruits.
According to the Glassdoor report, their pay rose 5.3% to over $54,000 a year. The other top jobs were bank tellers. Their median base rose 9.2% to over $31,000 a year. And cashiers increased 5.7% to over $28,000. What's great about all 3 of these positions, you don't need higher education. Other positions Glassdoor reported seeing a pay increase: construction workers, pharmacy technicians, and security officers. Although the federal minimum wage right now is $7.25 an hour, this year in 20 states, minimum wage will increase, giving 5 million workers a raise for the new year.
And this week in our current Back in Business segment, the Now Scott Sheehan talked with local businesses about the recent minimum wage increase and how it will impact our local economy.
Can I help you?
Once the clock hit 2019, California's lowest paid workers got a raise when the state minimum wage increased. The state minimum wage for small businesses that have 25 employees or fewer went up from $10.50 an hour to $11 an hour, while minimum wage for workers at companies with more than 25 employees went up from $11 an hour to $12 an hour.
It's based on the minimum wage is minimum wage, and the only differentiation that people get is the size of employer. By 2023, all employers will be at $15 per hour.
The minimum wage increase is part of the state law to move to $15 an hour, then to a system based off of a consumer price index or cost of living index. But Ortiz says when it comes to Bakersfield and Kern County, California is not a one wage size fits all.
What is a living wage, or what it should be a minimum wage in the Southern California area, Los Angeles area, and San Francisco Bay Area may not necessarily be right for the Central Valley.
Local businesses have already begun adjusting their payrolls with a new minimum wage increase. For some, like the Wonderful Company and Self-Help Credit Union, they moved their employees to $15 an hour this year instead of waiting until 2023.
We actually felt that it was the right time to do that, and it's a great opportunity for us to invest in our employees.
While other local small businesses, like the Lamont Auto Repair, are nervous about how the increased cost of wages will impact their bottom line and prices.
I see it as something good for my workers, but it does bring challenges to us, adjusting our prices, based on the minimum wage.
In a statement to 23 ABC, the Wonderful Company's Director of Communication wrote that about 2,000 of the roughly 4,500 employees here in Kern County got bumped up from minimum wage to $15 an hour. And Ortiz says, with a lot of workers seeing a quick increase like that, it impacts the rest of the economy.
If you're going to $15 an hour, what was a pretty substantial hourly amount over minimum wage now becomes just the bare minimum. And so you have to make changes in your payroll, not just for those minimum wage workers, but really throughout the system, throughout your entire payroll.
For a second-generation small business like the Lamont Auto Repair, owner Espinoza hopes the rise of minimum wage won't let him be as competitive as the bigger auto shops.
We're a small business. We try to stay competitive. We have to stay competitive with the big guys. And I don't like raising my prices in an outrageous amount.
For Self-Help Credit Union, they see the chance of increasing their employees' wages as a boost to the local economy.
A higher wage for our employees, which gives them more purchase power for them and their families. And that actually helps the local economies as well, because they can spend a little bit more on the things that they need.
As for job availability moving forward, there are a couple of thoughts. Ortiz thinks small businesses might need to make cuts to keep costs and prices down.
And the burden in terms of increased costs is going to fall disproportionately on small businesses, which make up about 75 to 80% of our membership. So, what you're going to see potentially is, less ability to invest in your business, less ability to hire more.
While Gonzalez hopes the increase in pay will increase the quality of employees at his business.
I think it will. I think they will see that Self-Help is looking to provide great environment for employees, as well as an investment in our employees by even being ahead of the curve.
And for a business like the Wonderful Company, they say they encourage others in the agricultural industry to follow their wage increase lead. For Krimback in Business, Scott Sheehan, 23 ABC News.
It's been 10 years since a plane flew into a flock of geese and sucked birds into the engine. The plane went down over the Hudson River. Everyone survived, and it became known as the Miracle on the Hudson. And since then, aviation experts have worked to prevent bird strikes. The FAA has spent more than $350 million to keep animals out of an airport space. That means wildlife biologists now have jobs at the airports, and they help airports become less bird friendly. Well, a year after that crash, the FAA began recommending awareness training for bird avoidance. The FAA is trying to develop radar that detects birds, but it has warned pilots to not depend just on technology. Some airports are taking the bird battle to the ground and are trying to scare birds away with honking horns and setting off fireworks. But since the crash in 2009, we've seen more bird strikes, partly because we're flying more. But out of all of these bird strikes, not as many are damaging the planes that we're flying on. Well, ever hear your favorite song or even get scent of your favorite smell, and then you get transported back to a different time or place, causes that memory to arise? Well, one group of people is using art to do just that. And as the Now's Kumasi Aaron found out, the memories are even more meaningful.
For some, artwork is a glimpse of what could be, but for others, it sparks vivid memories of the past, becoming a beautiful reminder of what was. Something as simple as a painting, with its images and colors, can transport you back in time to your most cherished memories and favorite escapes.
We're going on a little bit of a journey right now. Close your eyes if you would like to. Now I want you to imagine we have left busy Denver and are spending the weekend hiking in Wind River, Wyoming. It is late afternoon and we are enjoying the golden light of the sun over the mountains. What is the feeling that you have when you look at this painting?
This inner exploration is part of the Denver Art Museum's Art and About program.
A little scary, all right.
We're going to be looking at 3 paintings today.
It's designed to spark memories for those slowly losing them.
Look really carefully at everything in here.
This is a group of people with early stage Alzheimer's or dementia and their care partners.
Have any of you ever lived on a farm or a ranch or someplace where you harvested? Yeah? Wayne?
For Wayne Schindler, this picture brought back memories of his childhood.
Combine. Okay, so you had a combine. And what state was that in? Where was that?
Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, my mom's from Missouri.
And for Ed Whitney, it took him back home.
I like the hills, the western hills of Oklahoma.
Ed was born and raised in Oklahoma and went to every Sooners football game up until a few years ago, when his Alzheimer's made it too tough.
Generations working together.
He and his wife Kathy have been coming to this program for nearly 3 years.
You always see something different. You see something that you remember.
Those are probably bona fide memories that are being stimulated by the artwork that maybe otherwise they wouldn't be able to verbalize.
Dan Linsman with the Noble Institute for Healthy Aging says accessing memories through art helps Ed and others here maintain neural networks. And while more research needs to be done to see if programs like these enhance cognitive abilities, they've been shown to help improve quality of life and socialization, which can decrease depression associated with memory loss.
We learn, we have fun down here, and we get to interact with other people in the same situation. It creates a community.
Look at their faces. No faces.
A community connected by memories.
Oklahoma, Oklahoma, O-K-L-A-H-O.
Often only an image away.
Oh, it's pretty.
For the Now,
I'm just an old soldier.
I'm Kumasi Aaron.
This was like a mecca.
Thank you, Kumasi. Well, more hospitals are joining a collaborative effort to reduce drug prices and making sure they have enough medications in supply. Now, the nonprofit generic drug company, Civica RX, formed last year to focus on making specific injectable drugs facing shortages. Today, a dozen more health systems join the organization, and hundreds of hospitals across the country, including the VA, are working with the nonprofit. And checking back on our lineup, a well-known actor is bringing new attention to a reality a lot of us are facing, taking care of an aging or sick family member. The places you may not realize where you can turn for help and support. You're watching The Now. Actor Rob Lowe is opening up about a difficult time in his life that millions of Americans can relate to, taking care of an aging or sick parent. Now, Lowe, writing for USA Today about how he and his brother felt as they cared for their mother while breast cancer took her life, saying it was one of the most difficult times of his life, but also one of the most rewarding times. And he even said he had a lot of support, but Lowe has said he often felt very overwhelmed during this time. And of course, the reality is that 40 million Americans are playing the role of a caregiver, and about a third of them are doing it alone, many sacrificing their own health, their careers, their money. But you don't have to. There are resources available in every state. The Family Caregiver Alliance is a helpful place to start. You can find food, legal and medical care services, plus online and in-person support groups, and there are even classes for caregivers. Lowe wrote, through all the stress, try to be present. And remember, you did the most important thing, helping someone you love know that they weren't alone. Well, calls to the suicide hotline increased after the deaths of celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade. But a free national drug addiction hotline that could help millions of Americans remains underused. Tomorrow on The Now, the life-saving help that's available and how it's making a difference for those using it.
2 more storms are on the way. The wettest is going to be on Thursday, and it's going to be windy.
All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you back here tonight at 11.